Hey everyone, this is the iPhone 16e. I've been using it for about a week now, and everyone's talking about this phone, and it might be the most controversial iPhone release in a very long time. This is Apple's sort of budget, entry-level iPhone, but the big problem here is that it's not really so cheap anymore. This is of course replacing the iPhone SE, and it starts at $600 USD, which is just $200 less than the iPhone 16, and that might seem like a good deal, but the iPhone 16 does offer a lot more for that extra $200. But let's get the obvious out of the way. If you're considering buying this phone, I strongly recommend to look at some older iPhone models first, especially the iPhone 15, which is just $100 more at $700, and that gets you more color options, a better design with the dynamic island instead of a notch, a second camera, which means a better camera experience overall, and a few other small improvements too. And that's just on Apple's website. If you check out like Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Kijiji, you can probably find an iPhone 15, 15 Pro, or even 16 for similar prices to the 16e. But you probably know all that. So let's talk about the 16e itself and what it offers. And it really isn't a bad phone by any means, despite what some people might think. It's just, it doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of iPhone pricing. Okay, so first up, the design. This is a really good looking iPhone. It's probably the most minimalistic design Apple has released in a long time. The back glass, which is frosted and matte, looks really clean, feels great to touch. The Apple logo is super subtle, and there's just a single rear camera here. No crazy camera setup. It looks really clean, really minimal. The sides are flat and aluminum. You get USB-C, a dual speaker system. You also get the action button, which I've set to the camera because there is no camera control button on this phone. At the front, the bezels aren't super thin, but not terrible either, especially compared to the previous SE. And yes, it still has a notch, no dynamic island here, which I definitely much prefer, but the notch isn't that bad. And the display itself could have been a hell of a lot worse. It's actually an OLED panel, it's 6.1 inches, and it's stuck at 60 Hz, but it's fine. I mean, most people who are upgrading to this phone probably are coming from a 60 Hz iPhone anyways. The display here is definitely an upgrade from the previous SE though. It's, like I said, OLED, so it has deep blacks, the colors are really nice, it gets quite bright as well. It's honestly a pretty nice display. I expected a lot worse. But one of the biggest kind of like secret perks about the 16e is actually its repairability. This thing is supposedly very easy to repair, so if you crack the back or the front or needs a new battery over time, you can easily open this thing up, easily repair it yourself, and I think that is definitely a big feature. Now inside, the phone is powered by the A18 chip, the same processor as the iPhone 16, but just slightly less powerful in some areas like graphics, for example. But for everyday use, it's actually ridiculously fast. Especially if you're coming from an older iPhone here, this is going to be a huge upgrade. Apps open instantly, multitasking is smooth, gaming is solid, especially for me coming from a 16 Pro Max, I honestly noticed no difference in daily usage. And battery life, which the previous SE wasn't really known for, is actually a strong point here too. You're getting a 4,000 mAh battery approximately inside, and thanks to the power-efficient A18 chip, and actually Apple's first in-house modem, the C1, the phone easily lasts a full day of usage with no problems. I'll wake up at around 6:30, 7 a.m. and I use the phone pretty much all day till around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when I have about 25-30% battery left, and I just stop and charge it then. That's pretty good. It's also basically on par with my 16 Pro Max, which is pretty impressive. And I'm a heavy user. I use a lot of maps, I take a lot of photos, watch a lot of videos, usually all on full brightness, so pretty impressive performance here. And I would say more about the Apple C1 modem, but honestly, there isn't really much to say. It's kind of uneventful in the best way possible. I've had no connection issues, solid 5G all around, really no problems at all, and I think that is the best feature of this modem. It works perfectly. And because Apple has full control over the development, optimizations, and efficiency, it also improves battery life, which is pretty sweet. So, good job, Apple. And maybe we'll get it across the full iPhone 17 lineup. We'll see. Now, one of the best parts of the iPhone experience is the camera experience, and you're getting two cameras here on this device, a 48 megapixel main camera and a front selfie camera. And this is how 4K video looks on the front-facing camera, and you can also hear the audio quality as well, so let me know what you think. And this iPhone has the smallest camera sensor in the latest iPhone lineup, but photos are still pretty great. They're sharp with good colors, solid detail, they're really beautiful shots. You don't get a lot of natural background blur in close-up shots, but the plus side, you can get closer to subjects to take photos. You do also get that digital 2x zoom here too, giving you a 2x zoom sort of option that looks almost as good as having a second zoom lens. But the biggest downside from my testing is the low light performance. Since this is actually a smaller sensor, night photos aren't that great. There's lots of noise, muddy details, and there's blur in some shots unless you hold completely still. You will probably have to rely on night mode to get really clear, beautiful night shots, but personally, I've turned that off a long time ago because I don't like it at all, and I find it's just a great way to miss a lot of shots at night. So low light performance, not so great here. Video, on the other hand, is excellent. 4K video up to 60 frames per second looks beautiful with smooth stabilization, great colors and contrast, just a really solid video camera experience. And it is an overall solid camera experience, but the one thing I really missed using this phone was an ultra-wide camera. Having that flexibility to capture a super wide shot, either for the look of it or because you physically can't back up anymore, is a great feature. And it's one of the reasons why I'd recommend spending a bit more money to get a 15 or 16 which have that ultra wide camera, because for photos or videos, like, I love taking ultra wide shots, and I think it's something that you're gonna want as well. Now, if you're considering buying this phone over, let's say, the new Pixel phone, the Nothing phone, a cheaper Samsung, or just a cheaper Android phone in general, it's because you want to have iOS, and I totally get it. iOS these days is amazing. It's better than it's ever been. It's feature-packed, customizable with great stock apps, an app store that gets exclusives, and in some cases better versions of apps. You have widgets, iMessage, iCloud, guaranteed software updates for years, and if you're already in the Apple ecosystem with like a Mac or an iPad, Apple Watch, AirPods, all those devices work seamlessly with this device for transferring files through iCloud. That's the Apple ecosystem, and it alone is a great feature, and of course, it all works here. You're also, of course, getting Apple Intelligence with visual intelligence here, so you can take a photo of something and you can easily look it up. There's AI-powered text tools, of course, Genmoji, and all of this is not like an absolute game changer, but it's here if you want it. Now, the biggest thing that bothers me that's missing on this phone is MagSafe. Now, you can, of course, just go out and buy a third-party case with those magnets built in, but for me personally, I don't like using a case all the time, so it sucks to not have MagSafe here. And yes, it still has wireless charging, albeit very slow wireless charging, especially if you don't place it perfectly on the wireless charging coil on your charger. It's going to charge incredibly slow, but MagSafe is so much more than just the magnetic alignment when charging. It's really all about the convenience. Like, throughout my home, I have these MagSafe mounts where I can just slap my phone when I'm cooking, for example. I can look at recipes or watch videos while I'm biking or brushing my teeth even. It's great for easy tripod mounting. I have a whole bunch of battery packs that I just slap onto the back of my iPhone for quick top-ups throughout the day. It's fantastic. And losing MagSafe is honestly a deal breaker for me. If you've never used MagSafe, you don't have it, that's totally fine. You're not going to miss it here. But for me, it's like, if the iPhone 17 didn't have MagSafe, for example, and I was upgrading, I would definitely think twice about upgrading. It's that essential for me. I know it's silly, it's just a bunch of magnets, but it's a great feature. Okay, so to conclude, this is definitely an interesting phone, and it's really not a bad iPhone at all. It has like 85 to 90% of the things that make an iPhone. Like, it has a great camera experience, it has great battery life, it has iOS, fast performance, but there's no MagSafe, no extra cameras, so no ultra wide or zoom, and not the most modern design. You still have that notch, still have those thicker bezels. And at just $200 less than the iPhone 16 and $100 less than the iPhone 15, is it really worth it? I mean, if you really want to save that money, totally, I get it. If you want like super long battery life, you like the design here, you like some very specific thing about this phone, yeah, it's not a bad choice at all. But I'm honest, and I'll be honest with you here, I definitely recommend looking on the used market for an iPhone 15, 15 Pro, or even an iPhone 16, because you can probably find one of those phones at a very similar price, if not cheaper, than this device. You also gotta think a little bit long term as well. Like 2-3 years from now, are you gonna be happy with just a single camera? No ultra wide, no telephoto zoom? Are you gonna be happy with that notch instead of a dynamic island? Are you gonna be happy with no MagSafe? If none of those things matter to you, by all means, get this phone. It's fantastic. But for me personally, look at a used iPhone 15 or an iPhone 16. That's my opinion. But I want to hear your thoughts on this device in the comments down below. What do you think of this phone? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you wish Apple put in this device? Let me know down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, and thank you for watching.